Greetings, my name is Blaze and welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I talk about thoughts, theories, and my interpretation when it comes to things that I'm interested in. In today's video, I actually had a video request from Room to Move. Room to Move said, "I'd enjoy your critique of the Netflix series The Magicians. I found a lot of deeper spiritual truths in it, as well as being very funny at times. I thought the characters Eliot and Margo were awesome. Very well written script in my opinion." So, to begin with, I'd like to point out the fact that I've never finished the series. I've only watched 4 of the seasons. I stopped after season 4. I know there's 5 seasons for it, though. I'm not really good at reviews, and it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm going to refer to a few handful of notes as I talk about it. So you have a cast of characters. Let's talk about the characters and my opinion of them. Quentin Coldwater was my favorite character, one I could relate to the most. Definitely liked the way he was written. Even though he wasn't necessarily the main character, I enjoyed him on the show. I enjoyed a lot of the things that he did, and like I said, I felt like he was very relatable for me specifically. Julia Wicker was annoying for me. I don't know why, but for some reason I had issues watching her character. Nothing against the actress, I just didn't like her character very much until later in the seasons. Alice Quinn annoyed me at first, but she grew on me. She changed too much throughout the series. There's times where I thought she was great, and there was times where the character just drove me nuts. Eliot Wog was fun the entire time. Just a great character all around. I do agree with Room to Move there. Penny, kind of indifferent about. There's a point where the character dies and they have like another version of him. And I don't like this whole alternate reality, different version thing. It never really sat well with me. Margo Hansen, probably one of the better characters too. Her and Eliot were just fun. They made it very enjoyable to watch as two characters. Henry Fogg. Fogg was awesome. Not only the way he spoke, but just the way the characters was written on a whole. I really enjoyed that character. Great teacher. Caddy, Orloff Diaz. She annoyed me. I didn't like her. Fen was fun. I liked Fen. I think Fen was a great character, very sweet character. And I liked the growth that she showed throughout the show. Josh Hoberman. Mixed feelings. A lot of mixed feelings. Irritating, but still a great character in a whole. So those are like some of the main cast. I remember most of them. I looked up the cast and I wrote them down. Just wanted to share a few thoughts on those characters. So in season 1, I feel like season 1 was hands down the best season. Season 1 had me hooked from the beginning to the end. I really liked this loner who was in the books and just kind of weird and obsessed with these filler books and read stuff, and he did tricks and things. He finds out magic's real. He's accepted in this school. Pulls you in really nice. Just a really great, well-written series. Now, the Beast was kind of a scary monster. I like the whole concept behind it on a whole until I found out what it was. But I like the whole general idea behind the Beast at the beginning. The whole weird fly thing with the face, I don't know why that was necessary or why he would depict himself that way once you later find out what he is. The whole thing he did with writing the fillery books and the creepiness that happened with the author, that part with the Beast was kind of disturbing. Very difficult to watch. The whole idea behind the blade was an interesting thing. Fen marry the High King. All of that was kind of interesting. Ember's power. So, if you want to get into real magic, mysticism, and spirituality, there is some power that exists in blood and reproductive fluids. However, I don't know of a lot of different applications you do, but drinking them to absorb the power of a deity is disturbing and off-putting. It was difficult to watch for me personally. Some people might not have cared, but I kind of get where they were coming from with that on a whole. It just was very disturbing. The whole thing with the fox deity, that was disturbing. There's a lot of things that were very difficult to watch on a whole in the first season, but I still think the first season was great from start to finish. The battle at the wellspring, the idea that the Beast could absorb the entirety of the wellspring, and that's the source of magic. There is this thing with ley lines in the world, and they're like basically spiritual flowing rivers, kind of like meridians in your body, but in the earth, where they're supposed to be places of power. So it kind of sort of makes sense, but the idea of draining them when they should be an infinite source does kind of bother me. So I don't know. I've got some critiques coming at it from an individual who studies spirituality and mysticism, but I don't know. Season 1 was definitely my favorite. I think on a whole, from start to finish, it was pretty good. I'm not really sure how I feel about Alice dying, because I'm pretty sure that's the one that she died in. I didn't write that down, but I'm pretty sure Alice dies in the first one because she grows on you over time. She's like kind of like that Miss Know-It-All that's awkward, and I don't know. I just got a mixed feelings there. So in season 2, the wellspring gets drained. Ember gets bored of Fillory and decides he wants to destroy it. Which, again, it's kind of like, why? Just because you don't have your brother Umber with you? It's like, I don't know. Interesting plot twist there. Penny getting cancer, I was kind of indifferent about. They don't want Ember, of course, to destroy it, so they go and find Umber. They find out Umber's still alive, and it's interesting the contrast between the two brothers and how one's chaos and one's order, and the chaos one eventually just wants to destroy it because he's bored, I guess. And then reunited with his brother, you think they would start taking care of Fillory again, but nope. Kills his brother, and then they kill the god Ember by enchanting the sword, and all of this stuff happens, and I'm just kind of like, what the actual F? I just... And then I think that's the one where Julia becomes a goddess. Yeah, that's the one where Julia becomes a goddess. Again, just kind of annoying. Once I found out more, this is where Julia's character, when she starts getting her past memories back, when she starts getting her memories back and you find out what type of character she was, and the fact that they redid the Fillory thing over and over and over again until they could finally defeat the beast. That was an interesting take, this whole time warp thing, which again brings me back to the first one being so great, the first season. The second season, the fact that magic can just be turned off like this water tap thing, that kind of bothered me too, but I guess it's an interesting way of a different perspective of kind of showing how magic flows through the world and it can be controlled. So by the fact that one of the deities not only was able to be killed, but they say, well, if this is what you're going to use magic for, we're taking it away from you. Well, you shouldn't be able to turn it back on then necessarily if they want to have it turned off. So the fact that they try to turn it back on in season 3, I don't know. Season 2 was still good, but there was more highlights for me in season 1. Season 2 started where it started already falling apart for me personally. Season 3, the whole keys and giving up their powers to open the keys originally and having locks. So Julia gives up her goddesshood. The whole fact that they're like, oh yeah, we're just going to ignore these dimensions and build these new dimensions. I'm just like, really? That's what you're going to do? It felt very Supernatural for me, because Supernatural, that show, Chuck got bored with one reality and disappeared from Earth and started working on different ones. It had a very interesting feel, this whole concept that the deities have given up on our kind and quit and went to form new worlds. And of course, it would make sense Julia would still have ties to this world and want to come back. I also thought it was interesting that she had to give up her power to open the wellspring. I mean, if the gods were able to turn it off, couldn't they just turn it back on? And if they're going to reopen these, the tap and the magic, I'm like, really? So why doesn't Julia have the power to do that? Why does she have to give up her power in order to unlock it? And then the librarians coming in and taking it over and rationing out the magic started pissing me off. Definitely made for an interesting dynamic, but it's just like, wow, you entered this awesome world and then you put reservations on it already. I feel like it rushed too quick and got too quick to this whole concept of, here's a magic world, yank, I'm going to take it away. And I'm just like, whoa, what's going on? I also thought it was interesting too that once the stuff happened in Fillory, that there was magic throughout the rest of the world, a little bits of sparks here and there, even though it wasn't supposed to. I don't know. There was a lot of things that they wrote about it and did in the script that it sat well with me sometimes it did not. But yeah, season 3, the whole Castle Blackspire, the monster taking over Eliot, Julia giving up her powers, and then the whole quest for the keys. The quest for the keys were kind of fun. I liked when Quentin gets to grow old and find, I guess, a wife, has a son, and his son grows up. But I don't know if his son comes back or not. Maybe he comes back in the 5th season, because they never really said what happened to him. That whole him getting older, growing his hair out long, becoming an old wise man. It was an interesting perspective, and it was kind of neat to see them be able to live their own life as they tried to figure out this puzzle, and then they go back in time. But you would think both Eliot and Quentin would be more powerful having lived a lifetime and having that wisdom still, because I don't think that all went away. So I'm not really sure why it kind of went away. But that was an interesting twist and spin. I did like a lot of the different quests and missions they had to go on to try to unlock magic again. But the fact that they get it all unlocked and turn back on in the library, like rations it out, like takes it over at the very end, it's like, what a frustrating ending to have. Then season 4, is where it really started to go downhill for me personally, which is also why I quit after season 4. And, that's where magic is being rationed off. Quentin ends up sacrificing himself at the end to save everyone. I hope it's not a spoiler for anyone, but it's like I'm already giving a review and talked about each season. So if you're still watching now and you didn't know that, sorry to bust your bubble. It's been out there for a while, but I really didn't like that whole scene. And they were trying to say stuff like, oh, well, he was done with the show and he wasn't really the main character, and people kept looking at him in the main character. But I really feel like the show without him is just not necessarily worth watching. And I thought his whole death scene and talking to Penny was weird and comfortable, drawn out. And it was always painful to watch because you kind of grew attached to the characters. And then him being there in spirit form as all of his friends say goodbye to him was just, I don't know, it jerked on the heartstrings too much for me to watch anymore. And I was done. So my character that made me invested in the show to begin with, my favorite character, got taken off, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I don't think I watched any of season 5. I mean, I guess I could have. I just don't remember anything of season 5 at all. Now, as far as your comment, deeper spiritual truths in it, I'd be interested in what those were. I mean, I think on a whole, you can find deeper spiritual meaning and truths in any type of thing that you read or watch. I think people who write some of this stuff are inspired by actual tales, legends, lore, and history. And then sometimes they just pull it out of their rear end and try to rationalize it. And you can tell if somebody doesn't know much about the stuff they're trying to write about because they twist things in a way that makes it a new possibility that never would have been thought of because it's not consistent with lore. So, for example, if you're writing about magic, but you don't know anything about magic because you haven't studied it, or you don't believe in it, or you are just, I'm going to use magic generically and kind of apply it to anything that I want to explain that's unexplainable, there feels to be this roughness to it. And I think I felt that with a lot of the magicians. It felt like they were kind of doing the idea of the magicians without not sure where to take it. So they're just like, oh, well, magic has to come from somewhere. We're just going to make it this thing that could get turned off like a water supply. It ended up being an interesting theory, but a lot of the stuff in there just felt off to me. And I don't know. I don't feel like I felt a lot of deeper spiritual meaning for most of the stuff. There is just a show. It was just a fun show to watch for me personally. But no, I'm glad you liked it. Thanks for the request. I hope this was interesting to listen to. Like I said, I don't do reviews very often. I think if I was going to give the overall series, the show from season 1 to season 4 a rating on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 4 or 5. I think it's worth watching once. It's not something I probably would sit through again. And I'm not sure I would want to pick it up for season 5 or if they ever made a 6. I just kind of lost interest with the show. But I was very invested in season 1. And season 2, I was still pretty hooked. Like I said, it kind of went downhill for me. It was one of those things that slowly now too many twists, turns, and it was too fast with the twist and the turns. There wasn't much development. It's just like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. And when you do too many of those, you do that every season, I lose interest sometimes with some of the shows that I watch. So thanks for watching. If you like this, thumb up, like, and subscribe, and more videos coming your way. Catch you next time.